Hello teachers, welcome to session 3, and I know for most of you, you are teaching for the first time. So if you haven't watched the previous videos or looked through the lessons yet, here's going to be a brief rundown of what's to expect for you. But before we go into the leader's guide, I want to show you some of the resources that are available for you. So if you look at our Google chat group for ActsKids and scroll up a little bit, I've already linked the leader's guide for your age group. So 3 to 4 or 5s, 1st to 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade plus will use the pre-team curriculum. So click on the respective link and then it will make you create an account. But if you have any issues logging in, please let me know or let us know in the group and we could help you run through it. But after that, I've also shared a couple of other links. There's a weekly training podcast from Gospel Project itself. So I gave you 2 links for 2 different platforms that you should listen to. You'll probably have to scroll down a little bit and find Unit 1, Session 3, which is our week for the following Sunday. But they're a couple semesters ahead of us, so they might have a lot more material that is on the top. This is the gospel poster. If you want to share the gospel with your students, or if the leader's guide asks you to share the gospel with your students, they're referring to this poster. So I have a link for you because it's not in your leader's guide itself. Also, finally, there's a link to our Google Drive with all the lessons videos in it. You might be able to find it in the previous link, these ones. But I've put it in Google Drive form as well. And if you go to the DVD videos folder, there's one for preschool, there's one for elementary, and there's a question for kids video. So question for kids video and the preschool video, will show it during our ActsKids worship time. But you could also show it during your class again for review. So if your students are younger age, show them the preschool video again. If they're older age, show them the older kids video. But the content is the same. It's just a little changed to be age appropriate. And question for kids is a pastor that answers questions that were submitted by kids themselves. So this is something we'll show them in the worship room, but you can also show them again during your class. And if you want to look at some of the music ahead of time, here's the music video with motions. And missions is for each unit. The Gospel Project introduces a new missionary family. And this is to make gospel and sin and all this more practical and more real life for our students, where they could pray for these families and know that there is work being done. So it's not just a story, but it continues on today, where we can share the gospel and have people forgiven of their sins. So these are some of the resources available for you. But if you look at your leader's guide, this is the younger kids leader's guide. You'll see on the first title page 4 sections: key passage, big picture question, Christ connection, and story point. The key passage and big picture question is review. It's the same for each unit. So they've already went through it twice, but you should review it and make sure they have memorized the verse and know the big picture question and answer. Christ connection and story point is different each week. So you can look behind the previous 2 sessions and review it with them, but also have your focus point for this week, teaching them the Christ connection and the story point. Gospel Project seeks to connect Christ into each of the lesson, no matter what book of the Bible we are learning. And for this week, we learned last week that Adam and Eve sinned, but God promised them that someone from Eve's line will come and crush the head of the serpent, freeing them from sin and death. But we see that they have children, but it's not Cain or Abel. But as we keep waiting for his promise, we see that at the right time, God sent his son, Jesus, to save sinners. We see that they are to wait for Jesus. That's how it connects to Jesus. And the story point is that sin separates us from God. Now, I have a document here for our families, and you might have gotten email this week about for families to review with their children at home. But here you could see some of the ways that the age differences have changed the wordings for the story point or the Christ connection. You see that the older they get, it's much more detailed. So you could look at the other leaders' guides, or you could even stop, pause, and read this to see some details of the Christ connection that you would like to share. Even for the big picture question and answer and the key passage, they're actually different per age group so that it's easier for them. Maybe if they're too young to memorize the whole verse, I think most of them can memorize the whole verse, but they are shortened for the age group. For the curriculum itself, if you look at the second page, on the right side, you see how it is broken up. So the first page, the second page after the title page is for you as leaders to study the Bible, to practice what you teach, to be blessed and filled with the Spirit so that you're ready to go. It's a time for you to pray for the kids and for yourself in preparation. But there'll also be a welcome section. This is to greet them, but also have a icebreaker time and review the previous week. Learn is the bulk of the lesson, where you share the Bible story, but also go over the big picture question and answer, have some review and questions after the Bible story time. Love and Live are a more interactive review time. So Love usually for younger kids has a discussion question section, and Live always has an activity section. So just going through, here's a checklist for some of the things that you might have to prepare. And for the highlighted boxes, these are all the suggested activities. So there's one for the Live section on the bottom as well. But there are also some icons, allergy alert and low prep. Low prep just means that you don't need to prepare a lot of items to do this activity. So try to do as many as activities you can. You could do both or even more if you have some ideas. But each of these activities should point the children to the story point. How sin separates us from God. So you see there's an introduction of the story point, the big picture question and answer. Review the timeline. Take this time to, we don't have the giant timeline, so take this time to review where we are in the Bible story. Reviewing session 1 and session 2 and how it connects to session 3. And now you could show them the Bible story video, or you could read this to them. Depending on what you think is the best dynamic for your class, you could use the storytelling tips to read it to them or show them the video, or you could do both. Then there's some review and some discussion. You always have an opportunity at this gospel discussion time. Other age groups might not have it, to share the gospel with the students every week and each week so that no one ever misses out on knowing how the gospel works. The missions moment, as I've shown you, this is for the missionary family, Eric and Ramona Reese, who are serving in Brazil. Just take time to pray over this family together as a group and just share what missionaries do and how we can also take part in God's mission. And as I've said before, the Love and the Live is a review section for activities that you have, and also discussion questions. And it's to really drive in the story point, because the story point is emphasized in almost every single page, basically every single page, and also how Christ connects to our passage today. So this is how the curriculum is going to work.